In the news, a 13-year-old murder mystery has come to life again as friends of Jennifer Delgado gathered to remember a life cut short.
Hi everyone, I'm Christopher Palmer and welcome back to another edition of Heart Profit. Today we're talking with Jason Mata, the Executive Director of the Advocates Boxing Youth Program right here in San Antonio. Mr. Mata, thank you so much for joining us. If you could start at the beginning and tell me about the history of how this nonprofit organization got started.
Sure. So the Advocates Social Services started back in 1979. My dad, his name is Charlie Mata. He was one of the founders of the organization. The biggest thing for the organization at that time was food distribution. And one of the biggest things they did was, or that they were involved with, was the government's cheese surplus and the butter surplus that the government was giving to nonprofits. They distributed hundreds and thousands of pounds of cheese and butter. I mean, I remember Saturdays. I was a young kid back then, maybe about 8 years old, and I remember Saturdays. There was long lines of people, coming to collect the free food, and so that was one thing they got involved with. But later, as time went on, we got into, or I should say, the advocates got into advocacy work, basically doing case management for public assistance benefits, mainly food stamps and Medicaid. So the job went from food distribution to how can we access these food benefits, food stamps? How can we help people access those benefits with limited issues? But as the years went along, I was able to help my dad establish the Advocates Boxing Youth Program. And then later we established the Prospect Hill Neighborhood Association.
What was your father's drive for wanting to start the Advocates?
Okay, so his parents were migrant workers. He and his siblings worked in the farms, like picking cotton and picking, I believe it was grapes, is what he explained to me. So they were young kids living in farms, basically, living hand to mouth on what they could do on a daily basis as far as the work. And so he grew up in poverty. He totally understands what it is to be a child who's hungry, who doesn't have enough food to eat. He had a particular mission. He wanted to make sure that people were, regardless of their economic status, that they were treated with respect and with dignity. I believe that because he, growing up poor, that he felt like they almost felt ashamed to ask for help, and he didn't want people to feel like that. So he became an advocate. So our purpose is positive reinforcement. So we know we're dealing with a lot of kids that are at risk, a lot of kids who have experienced PTSD because of abuse, maybe PTSD because of their economic status, maybe because they're poor, right? But economically, the children around here, the students around here, 96% of them in the SISD, right, San Antonio Independent School District, are economically disadvantaged. So for me, that's enough to say they're at risk, right, economically. So I've had to kind of justify a lot of why we do things, because some people in the community, please don't take me the wrong way. I mean, I'm very upfront, and I don't even know who I'm talking to. Like, I could be talking to someone who's saying, hey, I'm one of those guys that thinks like that, but it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's up for discussion, right? But to me, people who don't realize what's going on in our community, they're in denial of it, and it's hard to get resolved when you can't kind of at least accept it. Like, we have a serious problem in Bexar County when it comes to poverty, but when it comes to children, like, there's a lot of children that need, and not only the ones in this community, 78207, even in the richer areas, like there's a lot of need, right? Kids need positive reinforcement. I mean, we need to get them out of the playing the video games all day. We need to get them interacting with other peers. And I believe that this boxing program has done a lot of that, because what amazes me today at this moment, about 80% of the kids that I'm training are not even from 78207. They're from other communities, you know, a little bit further out. So they're coming in for this program, and it's not because they have that at risk. They're not at risk so much like these kids, but they like the program. You know, I'm a victim of child abuse, sexual abuse. My parents went through a divorce when I was 4 years old. And for about 3 years, I was being sexually abused by different people. My parents never knew about it. You know, I think that when they saw a behavioral change in me, that they thought something was going on. But, you know, when your parents are separated like that, and then there's a lot of things going on, you know, while they're separated, and they fight each other, and there's all kinds of stuff. You know, my problems were like pushed aside. I didn't even I never brought it up to my parents. Never did I bring that up. They're both gone now, so I can speak freely about it more. But that's what drives me to help kids, because I see that myself, because of this abuse that I endured, that it kind of shaped the rest of my life. Like, through middle school, I was an underachiever. You know, I just, you know, I was more like a B plus student. I could have been an A plus student. In high school, I was very reserved because of that. You know, it wasn't really after high school where I kind of started to kind of have my own identity and, you know, kind of overcome that a little bit. But it took me a long time. I mean, I'm about to be 50 years old, and I'm barely going through therapy for it right now. I mean, I just started a year ago with therapy, and you know, it's just something that I wish I would have had 30 years ago. You know what I mean? I might have done something greater with my life. And I don't want kids to kind of be held back by that. Taking them through the basics with patience, and then simplifying everything for them. And then being real patient. Like, it's almost like, you know, like we expect it to go this slow or even to go that fast. Like, we don't expect them to hurry up and go hit the bags and go, like, that's too much. And so, like, I think that's what makes this program special, is that I know I do a lot of that. And anybody who comes under me, I try to teach them to be like that. You know what I mean? Not everybody's different. Everybody trains different, but I know that the kids that I deal with, special circumstance or at risk, I put a lot of, and I have a few people who have helped me in the past. So they know, like, be very patient, bring it down to their level, don't overwhelm them. You know what I mean? And it usually works. I mean, that usually works. And at the end of the day, even one good thing they do good is good enough. You know what I mean?
Now, you've been doing this for over 25 years now. Is there one individual, one story that you still remember to this day of someone that came through your program?
There's a bunch of them. You know, there's a bunch of them. But I can tell you about one kid. His name is Cyrus Orozco. He was 14 years old when he started with our program. I believe it might be 20 years ago. So he may be about 34 years old. He was a trouble kid. You know, he always wanted to fight. I mean, he was always fighting in school. Again, he kind of came from a broken home, and I don't know his parents. I know they were separated. I don't know if they were getting divorced, but he was in trouble with the law when he was already on juvenile in the juvenile system. Let's go fast forward from then to right now. You know, he got what they call a book to compete, and he competed under us several times and all that. Let's fast forward 20 years. He has 5 kids, if I'm not mistaken, right now. He's married. He works. He has a career in mechanics. You know, he's a mechanic. That's one that I would point out, because he's always been around, you know, and he's always been an advocate for the advocates. You know what I mean? He's enjoyed some of it. And he's had some issues even while he was with us, but you know, he has kids now. He's married. He works. You know, so I call him a success. You know, I call him a success. He's being a father and everything. So we need that in our community. We need to have, you know, we need to have parents as role models. I mean, they need, regardless of what we do, you know, they need to have that other support, and they need their parents. I mean, at some point, or a guardian who can be a role model as well. So we're real proud of that. There's others, but he's one that I can think of right now.
Wow. I mean, hearing that has to be a huge driving force to keep you motivated and keep you going with this nonprofit.
And many times, I mean, there was many times where I kind of was giving up. I just kind of wanted to quit. I kind of wanted to just to maybe shut down for a little bit and restructure and come back later and all that. And I feel that the organization can do that if it needs to. But at the times when I would feel like that, what really kept this thing going was that, at those times, when I really, really felt depleted, like, this is it. I'm not going to be spending too much time. And basically when I say I mean, I was, at that time, I'm the one that was really running this thing, I had help here and there, but if I decided to close it, we were going to close. I mean, it was just a decision I had to make. We weren't getting any financial help at the time. And there's been times like this, but what helped and what changed my mind and my attitude, what helped change my attitude was when kids would come up and say, if it wasn't for this program, I'd be dead right now. Or if it wasn't for this program, I don't know where I'd be at right now. When kids come and tell you that, I mean, that really affects, that affects you. You know what I mean? It affects me. And those are the moments where it's like, well, we just got to keep going. And we got to just keep going. And other people in the community, adults, who have used it, they were like, oh, there's no way you can close. What can we do? But at the end of the day, I mean, people have lives, they have to support their families. And this stuff about nonprofit, it takes a lot of sacrifice. I mean, you just, once you're in it like this, you can't stop. I mean, it's a nonprofit organization. It has, fiscal responsibility, not just to the clients. And some people don't understand that. It's like a business, you just can't go and there's other things that have to be done to keep it going.
Now, for someone watching this, on YouTube or social media, what would you say to them? Why should they give to your nonprofit organization?
We have the right people in place. This was started because of a purpose. This was started on purpose because one, we had my dad who experienced hunger and poverty. And so we understand the family issues that can come out of this. We help these programs. We help the boxing participants' families with stuff like the Medicaid and the food stamps, with case management. We have a big network when it comes to the housing and everything else. I mean, the Advocates has been here for 41 years now. So, they have to have been doing something right. I mean, I get to people like, man, that's a long time, so something must be going good there. So we have that experience. And then in the boxing part about the kids, like, we totally understand that kids need to have love. Our main thing is that we show love to these kids, and that we try to stabilize the family. That's our main purpose. Yes, we're working a lot with the kids, but parents are also there benefiting. And our main goal is to stabilize the family. And we don't always get funding here. A lot of times I'm funding this organization. As a matter of fact, right now, I'm funding this organization, and it's hard to do that. I had a discussion yesterday. I'm like, and I'll be totally frank here. I was able to collect because we're doing affordable housing as well there at our agency. And the rents that we collect include utilities. So, it's hard to work with people who can't find a place to live. There's a reason why they can't find a place to live, and we take them. Then they give us the problems, right? So I collected what I collected. I paid off everything. And then I find out that I'm short $800. Well, guess what? That month I collected $800 as my salary. I mean, I have to adjust my salary. Very difficult to do that. I'm not a rich man. I've been blessed many times over, but I'm not rich. Like, I can't afford to do this, and it's tough, and I'm still doing it, but it's tough. I face a lot, I have to take a lot. I have to swallow hard pills all the time. And you can only imagine from my family too, like from my wife, but she understands. She's been with me for 27 years.
Do you get any funding or grants from the city for your nonprofit?
Recently, in the last 6 months, we did get funding from the city for equipment, like for boxing bags and gloves, and it's all, that's great. But for program funding is very difficult for us. We hardly get program funding, like to pay for an assistant or pay a coach. That we don't receive. We seldomly receive that. But thank God that we've received for the equipment. We received that recently over the last 6 months. I just wish more people understood what it takes to run nonprofits, that we should spread, if there are resources, let's spread them around. There's a lot of valuable nonprofits out there, and they're all doing great work. Some of us are in different situations though, and some of us run different, and so, that's what I would tell someone who is looking to fund or trying to pick and choose nonprofits. I would tell them to please look into us and consider us, because we have a lot of need.
Now, you help people that are very close to or at the poverty level here in San Antonio. It reminds me of this documentary I saw, CBS News documentary back in the 1960s, where they went out to different parts of the country. LA, Chicago, I think was one of them. San Antonio was the one that caught my attention. And just looking at the living conditions of some of these impoverished people back then, it looked like, honestly, like a third world country.
San Antonio, Texas is celebrating its 250th birthday with an international exposition, Hemisphere 68. 32 foreign countries with pavilions, restaurants, amusements, and exhibits are helping San Antonio congratulate itself on its growth and progress. There's a skyride, a monorail, and of course the usual 600-foot tower with the revolving restaurant on top. Texas Governor John Connolly says Hemisphere has turned the downtown area from slum to jewel box. But the jewels don't glitter very brightly on the other side of town, where 400,000 Mexican Americans live, half the city's population. Most of them are crowded into what city officials refer to as poverty tracts. Mexican Americans face a language barrier, and like most poor people, they suffer from lack of skills and unemployment. A hard time earning means a hard time eating. A quarter of San Antonio's Mexican Americans, 100,000 people, are hungry all the time.
Hunger is felt, and when you begin to see hunger in the faces of people, it is because they no longer feel that hunger. ¿Vas a la escuela, Jerry?
Sí,
¿Hablas inglés?
poquito.
Okay. What school do you go to?
Southside.
Southside. How far is school from here?
8
what?
8 miles.
When you go to school there, do you take lunch with you?
No, sir.
And what do you eat at noon then?
Nothing.
Do they have a cafeteria there?
Yes, sir.
Do they know that you eat nothing at noon?
I guess not.
How much does lunch cost over there?
35.
Do you have 35 cents to buy your food with?
No, sir.
San Antonio has 4 county commissioners, and their opinions vary. A.J. Plow is the senior commissioner. He has served 5 successive terms for the last 18 years. David Culhane asked Commissioner Plow about the children in San Antonio who are not getting enough food.
Well, why are they not getting enough food? Because the father won't work. And I mean won't work. If they won't work, do you expect the taxpayer to raise all the kids because the daddies won't work? First, let's do something with the daddies, and then, yes, take care of the kids.
I wonder whether these children who are not getting a proper diet are going to be able to learn properly in school.
Well, what do you mean learn properly in school? Do you really need school? Other than, say, an 8th grade education? That's where another thing people keep talking about, this education, college education. It's not necessary.
And what do you do about the children who are not getting enough to eat?
Well, I don't know about that, because that's really the problem of the father. Now, what to do about the man, I don't know. But you'll always have that condition, because if you don't have that condition, then you'll never have Indians and chiefs. And you've got to have Indians and chiefs.
Not sure I understand what you mean. You mean that you'll always have hunger?
Not necessarily. Yes, you'll always have it, because some men just ain't worth a dime. And you'll always have hunger, yes.
In your opinion, over the last 25 years that you've been involved with your nonprofit, do you feel that there's a greater support from the city of San Antonio to support organizations that help other people?
I think there needs to be more effort. And I mean, I would direct you to Zarzamora Street right here. So I live, where I work at the Advocates, I live 6 to 8 blocks from there. So I live in this community as well. And that's probably why we're so passionate about it, because we see it every day. And I would love to see a different community. But beyond seeing a beautified community, I would like to see these people get help. On Sarsamora Street, you see, as of right now, I mean, just, I'm in my car, so I drove over. I'm outside my house, but driving over here, and every day I see it, there's probably about 40 homeless people out there camped out at businesses, in alleys, behind people's houses, and it's still third world right now, in certain aspects. And I know that like nonprofits like Haven for Hope that do housing and transitional, it's beautiful, but there's more to do. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's not helping everybody, and it's not their fault. But I still think that there's a lot of outreach that needs to be done. That I sat on the Haven for Hope board for about 3 years, and I always preached that we needed to do outreach. We did some, but we needed to keep, just like a salesperson, keep knocking on the door until the same kind of attitude, and we need to have passionate people doing this. Who better else than the nonprofits and the people who know these people? I mean, as a matter of fact, some of these people, when they see me, they know me. I think it's easier to get people like that to help you than strangers, and so the city, the county, the states, the federal government, they need to invest in those local nonprofits who know the situation. And in our case, I mean, we live it. I mean, I live it, I understand the PTSD that these people are going through big time. I understand that, and I'm sure other people do too. So no, I don't think they're doing it good. I would rate them as a, man, I always tell people, be careful with the questions you ask me, because you're going to get a real answer back. And here on Sarsamora Street in the West Side, I would give it a D. They need to do a lot more work, and not only for that part, but also affordable housing.
Tell me, is there any other way other than financial support that people can get involved with the advocates?
Like right now, we need administrative help. We need volunteers. So we don't have a grant writer. We need to apply for grants, and so volunteering for that, volunteering at the office to answer the phones, volunteering at the gym, to just log in kids and stuff like that. I mean, we need help in all areas, not just financial. There's stigmas against people that are in need, and not everybody's like that. I mean, some people are they need a little help, a little boost, and then they can do, and some people do great things with their lives. So though, I would say, get involved with nonprofits, try to make your own determination of what it is nonprofits do and how they help and the people that they're helping. And then some people just need a little boost. They don't need to be carried all their lives.
I want to thank you so much for what you do, and anyone that runs a nonprofit. I mean, you give so much of your personal life, your finances, sometimes your sanity. It's a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of people know just how much work is involved. And it's wonderful to have people like you, living here in our community. And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Well, thank you for contacting us, and whatever else you need from us, please let me know.
We hope to see you on the next edition of Heart Profit. I'm Christopher Palmer. See you next time.